All right, so I'm gonna get you guys rolling here. This is a good topic for everyone, even myself. You know, time is a component that we can either utilize to our advantage or we can make it an excuse. It depends on what lens you're viewing time from, because many times I see time wasted. Even myself, over the years I've really uh, disciplined myself to make sure I used my time appropriately in the best fashion, working on the highest level, most productive component that's going to move the needle forward for me personally, and focus on some of those components. So I will talk about time versus priority because I see this a lot, and sometimes what I see is the excuse of time is just an excuse. It's more of a priority component and how important or where does it fall on the priority list for you? And I will talk about some things that you can do to help um, prioritize, and then we can say, okay, what's most important, and then we can identify that fairly quickly if um, you fall last on the totem pole of taking care of your health. Uh, that shouldn't be a last on the totem pole because it's going to impact your productivity, how you show up, and everything else. But anyway, we can have that discussion. But why time isn't the problem is prioritizing what you're doing and where things um, fall on a scale of your main focus and priorities. Um, so I'm going to give you some technical tactics, systems to take ownership of scheduling workouts, meals, recovery without sacrificing family or work. Now, I will say, yes, sometimes when you're pushing and moving the needle forward with business, growing a business. Again, I understand that. I've done it multiple times. So you may have to make slight adjustments in what's a priority to you at that specific time. And sometimes things have to get pushed off and pushed out of the way, and your focus does need to shift. I get that. It happens to all of us. So, okay, here's one of the lies we hear, and we may even say this to ourselves about time. I don't have time is the biggest myth men tell themselves. It is. I hear myself and I try to reframe the language because I don't have time, and I'm like, yeah, I do. I just need to prioritize what I'm doing to get some of those components done. You have the same 24 hours as everyone else. And if you're kicking it on Netflix, you got plenty of time. If you're kicking it on the IG, you got plenty of time. If you're watching YouTube and um, doing things like that, you have time. Trust me. So the difference is how you prioritize your time. Time doesn't create success. Structure and ownership does. It's what you do to be strategic with your time, and you can get a lot of things done with how you structure your time. But it does take focus and it does take some discipline. Trust me. Um, you know, because distraction is a thief, guys. So the cost of poor priorities. Every yes is a no to something else. Think about that. And again, that's why I said, what is the highest priority components that you need to be focusing on that's going to move you forward the quickest? If health isn't scheduled, it becomes negotiable. Don't have time, can't get it in. And to be pretty transparent, we can get a 20 minute workout in and get what we need out of it 3 days a week to see the needle move. Trust me, that I can program it, and you can do it. So what happens with most people and most guys I see is you end up reactive, uh, not intentional, right? Family, energy, confidence pay the price. If you don't have the structure built out, if you don't take some focus time to look at the priorities, the schedule, and identify areas that you are not being productive and it's not fulfilling you and moving the needle forward, sometimes you have to let that go and move on from that. So, so the ownership mindset, stop managing time, start managing energy and attention. Okay, when are you most productive? When should you be doing things that are going to, the higher ticking capacity components? If you're a person, maybe you should be getting up earlier and working on some of those components. I get it, having a family, I get up early because I know that I can do and focus and start getting my day moved forward before everybody else. It is what it is. That means you may have to go to bed earlier. What a shame. So again, you don't find time, you create it. Ownership means being proactive, not reactive. Ask, why am I truly prioritizing it right now? What is it? What does it look like? Why? So here's some systems you can put in place. Non-negotiables. What are some of your non-negotiables? You guys hear me talk about this quite often. And you should have standards and non-negotiables built in. Maybe I should make all of you guys go through that in our coaching calls. Look at what your non-negotiables are, because left to no negotiables, we're going to roam, and the results are going to be non-existent. So, what are all the workouts, meals, recovery appointments? What are the no options, things you have to do? Because there are some, obviously with us, there's some things that we have to do for our careers, for our families that you would put in the non-negotiable categories. So use your calendar the same way you do for work meetings, maybe family calendar. I would recommend having one of those as well. So you want to schedule, make sure your non-negotiables are on that calendar, and you hold that to the highest standard. If you do need to do meal prep or eating windows for um, you know office time, or planning to have food, some type of food accessible, because just like myself, I might get busy and have back-to-back meetings and obligations. So I'm going to have to figure out, do I have something I could grab quick to down the hatch, keep going. Bedtime routines, downtime. That's one of the things that I see some of you guys struggle with. Um, it's okay to go to bed. It's, shut her down. There's no reason to watch mindless television because it's mindless, and it's and it can program negative components. Now, I'm not saying you don't always have to, or you have to remove that completely, but just make sure that you use that wisely, and don't let it overtake your time. So specifically, if you need to wind down for bedtime routine. Again, protect them, like high value meetings, like again the non-negotiables are on there. I gotta get it done. Now, if something happens and you don't get it done, you need to look at your schedule and, can I slip it in somewhere else during this day? If not, can I roll it over into the next morning? And or how can I manipulate and maybe even combine my workouts where I only have one more day left and I'm going to do half and half, or half the workout. Um, so just think of it that way. I would like to have you guys get at least three of those days of some type of stimulus to the muscle, because that's going to see the adaptation. So again, block time by identity, block time by who you want to be, not just what you have to do. Okay, what is the fit Tony do? Does he does he block his workout time Does he get his movement in? Does he have nutritious food around? You start checking those boxes. So, for example, the athlete training recovery. Here's more like this, a leader, your deep work or growth time, father, what's your husband time? What's your presence with your family? And it's interesting if you start blocking all this out with spouse, family, and kind of taking you know account of where you're at, what you're doing, because then you'll start finding more time to do specific higher level components, even with spouses, family, and things of that nature. So align your schedule with your values and how you want to show up. And you want to try to eliminate the gray zone. So gray zone, half working, half present. I've been there, I've done that. I still with rebuilding another business, this is an area that I know I'm guilty of struggling with, but it's one of those things when I get above a certain threshold, I know how to put systems in place and people in place that will allow me to free up my time to get it back so that I can be more present in certain situations. I get it. I understand that, guys. You get less done and feel guilty in both areas. I would say I'm in that phase right now. But I understand if I continue to do what I need to do, I will come out of that phase. So make sure you don't stay in the phase because time will fly by. So when you work, you work, you're all in, you're focused, you're getting your stuff done. When you're not, you're not, right? So when you're with family, be there, be present. And then, again, this is an area that I'm going through right now, and it can be a struggle at some time, and it can be frustrating for yourself. But you got to look and make sure that you identify what you can do to move the needle forward when others have other obligations. So that way, when they don't have obligations, you can be present. So boundaries increase both performance and peace, you know. So you want to really review this and adjust weekly. So that way you're staying on task or make adjustments. So maybe you need to move some things off. Are you overcommitted or move some things around from week in to week out? Specifically, I know a lot of you guys travel and or have different networking things going on. Well, with that said, you just got to plan around it. So you want to, make sure Sunday, check the system. What was week look like? Next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the month. Um, what were the wins from last week? What felt rushed or skipped? What can I do a better job with? What essentials this week do I need to make sure I'm taking care of or I'm getting in? Okay. You want to reset your schedule, match your priorities. Small weekly course corrections prevent burnout. You know, again, the more control you can have, the easier it will flow, and the more time you'll feel like you have. So the mindset shift needs to be, again, you don't need more time, you need more intentionality, what you're doing with your time. Just take the checks and balances, do a review of this, and see where you're spending most of your time and how can you make yourself more efficient if you're wasting things. Some of you guys run teams, have staff, and make sure that you're delegating what you can, and empowering those individuals to do the things they need to do to keep your time intentional. So, and then stop chasing the balance, build intentional, or build integration, work, training, family, recovery, make it an alignment of who you are and what you do. So that's going to give you the freedom and discipline to apply this consistently. And again, you are the number one asset. Making sure you take care of you is important because sometimes if your health continues to disintegrate, we cannot reverse it. So just be careful there, guys. And then uh, it would say, from my perspective, I would ask you guys to do evaluation. Where do you lose time most often? What does that look like? Or what do you need to remove? So sometimes you have to remove certain things. what are one or two things non-negotiable for you each week? What does that look like? What needs to be scheduled right now that hasn't been? And then hold yourself to that standard of that's who you are. That's what you do now. What's uh, what's one boundary you'll commit to this week to hold tight to? Hey, I am going to do this, and I'm going to make this part of what I do on a weekly basis. And then again, what are those things that maybe you're doing that's not serving you, that's keeping you stuck or is keeping you the old version of you? You want to evaluate that, and maybe you need to let that go as well. So again, time is what we prioritize, how we lay it out, and how we show up. So making sure that we do what we can to control that time and make it more efficient of what we do and prioritize it in the direction of who you need to be. So again, what I would recommend is take evaluation, make sure you're putting the non-negotiables in, removing the things that are not serving, test it, review it, change it, make sure you have some of that family time scheduled in, spouse time scheduled in, and then obviously some of the other non-negotiables that work for you, because each one of us may be in a different phase, a different level of where your families are at, where your kids are at, things of that nature. So you got to evaluate it and make this work for you, but understanding that when typically when people say, I don't have enough time, or when guys say I don't have enough time, it's just a priority thing, and or they're spending time in areas that they probably really shouldn't be spending it. But again, you have to evaluate it yourself and make sure that you're doing what you need to do to progress yourself. So, all right, hit me up if you have any other questions. And then, I'll have some discussion with some individual calls on, prioritizing. I know a lot of you guys already do this. Some of you guys struggle with this. So, we all have our areas that we do really well in, and we all have our areas that we may not be, or we may need to do a little bit more work. So let me know, and I'll talk with you soon, guys.